It's Dallas week, at least the first one of the season. Welcome to Burgundy Pregame. I'm Denton Day. He is Lynnell Willingham. The Commanders in Jerry World this afternoon. And Lynnell, for the next 2.5 hours, our work is cut out for us.
Yeah.
Because we are going to have to explain, or try our best to explain to all of the fans and listeners who Jane Daniels is going to be throwing the football to and who is going to be making plays for this Commanders offense. The work is cut out for them. This is a game where Jaden's going to have to put the cape on, where Cliff is going to have to put the cape on. Great resume game for Cliff Kingsbury to showcase, if he wants to coach again in the NFL, why a team should take a chance on him coaching again in the NFL. How are you? You good?
I am on eggshells, if I'm being honest, and I think that's going to be me for the next 6 hours until about 8 o'clock, 7:30, when this bad boy hits triple zeros. I know they've been a Jekyll and Hyde team all year long, but this week compared to the other weekends, we haven't seen the deck stacked against them like this. You just mentioned down your top 3 wide receivers. And coming off of performance Monday night that just doesn't leave you feeling confident about who this group is. I've been saying it all year long. I think they have a personality disorder. Week in, week out, you don't know which version of the Washington Commanders you're going to get. The one thing they have going for them is they haven't lost 2 in a row yet this year. If they lose here this afternoon, they would be under 500 for the first time since week 1 of last year. So it's uncharted waters for this group, and I think – and we'll get to it in our prediction. I think somehow, some way, they find a way to pull this one out, but it is not going to be easy, as you mentioned.
So that is going to be a big question, right? What are they? You're coming off of a loss last week where it was weird. You should not have been in the game because you turned the ball over that much, but yet you had a chance to win the game, and then you still found a way to lose the game because your quarterback fumbled, and then your defense could not stop Chicago when it came to running the football. So you're in a weird spot where you're kind of down, even though you maybe shouldn't be all that down, and then now you're going up against a rival. And I am of the belief, and have been, that the Dallas rivalry does not mean nearly as much now as it once did. However, it's still a divisional game. And there still is another level of physicality that comes with this. There's another level of pressure that comes with this, because even if it doesn't mean as much as it once did, it is still Dallas. And you have to put together your best football. And you're doing it without Terry, without Debo, without Noah Brown. And then we are skeptical as to whether or not Zach Ertz is going to play, because Zach Ertz was then listed as questionable yesterday. It was like Ian Rappaport tweeted late yesterday that Zach Ertz is questionable. So we don't know if Zach Ertz is going to play. So you might be without all of your best players. And that's a really tough thing and a difficult thing to deal with. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on Jane Daniels, who has not gone Superman mode yet. Now, I'm kind of okay with that to this point in the season, because I did not want him to be doing all of the crazy things that he did last year on a regular basis. But this is going to be a week where he needs to do some of the crazy things if they want to come out with a win, because, oh, by the way, Dallas is getting CeeDee Lamb back and George Pickens is going crazy. You're going to have to score a ton of points if you're going to want to win this football game.
Then I don't even think he has to be Superman necessarily. He just can't make some of the mistakes that he's made in his 3 starts this year. We've seen him last week was weird, man. The red zone turnover, just uncharacteristic of him. The fumble at the end of the game. Normally, right, all last year, he was his absolute best in those big time moments. We've seen him struggle in the end to have 2-minute situations that they have as an offense. He's been a part of it, though. So I don't even think it's about him putting on the cape. I think it's about him playing mistake-free football, not getting bored with taking the 4-yard check down to keep you ahead of the sticks. And, the third down numbers have been talked about all year long. You're 29th in the National Football League entering this week in that category. And he has been a part of the issue on third down in terms of last week you have a 2nd and 6, and he has an intentional grounding. It turns it into 3rd and 16. So plays like that. Last year when this group went on that run that, had the entire DMV, in an uproar, it was him not making mistakes. It was him being the guy that really led the charge for this group. And I think today he has an opportunity to do that.
And that second mistake he made last week was really a gut punch, because the second half was awesome. That was like old Jaden Daniels. He was making big throws to McCaffrey. He's making big throws to Jalen Lane. He's making good plays with his legs, where it's not too much, but he's using them correctly. And he's, extending drives. And then you have that fumble, and you're just like, ugh, deflated, defense can't stop them, and then you lose the game. What do you expect to see from those guys, though? Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey. I don't know who wide receiver 3. I mean, Chris Moore is probably going to be wide receiver 3.
Who gets the call up. I think it was Chosen Anderson that got the call up.
That's the crazy thing.
And your boy was using him on Madden last night, by the way, as well.
Just to see.
Just to see. He still got the burners on the game.
We literally have no idea who wide receiver 4, 5, and 6 is going to be, if they even bring 6 guys, brought 6 guys with them to Dallas. Like, this is a whole lot of unknown, and then that doesn't even factor into what is Zach Ertz going to look like? Is Zach Ertz actually going to play? And if he does not play, is Ben Sinnott capable of taking the next step in being a legitimate receiving threat? He's done a really good job, I felt like, in run game this year. He's been a really good blocker. But what does that look like now when you have more on your plate to catch the football and make plays? Can you make those plays?
I totally agree with you on Ben Sinnott. He has been kick-ass as a blocker all year long.
Oh, he's been phenomenal.
I think it's made up for him as not being really a threat as a pass-catching target. But you talked about Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey. I think this says a lot. Their usage today will say a lot about what they are as an organization when it comes to developing young talent. There's just no way you're going to concede snaps from your top 100 draft picks to a Chris Moore, to a Chosen Anderson. Let these young guys play, man. We can't lose track of what this is as a whole. It's year 2 of a rebuild. You drafted these dudes for a reason. I was frustrated last week when Deebo Samuel's limited, yet Chris Moore's hitting 44 snaps offensively to Jalen Lane's 27, to Luke McCaffrey's 24. I know those guys don't specialize in being an outside wide receiver, so I think that really has a lot to do with it, but damn, let them try. Right? We saw Jalen Lane on the outside have a double move.
If they don't specialize as an outside receiver, or they're not comfortable there, that to this point is organizational malpractice, because Terry has not been there for the entirety of the offseason. You didn't really have, like, Noah Brown was not there for the entirety of the offseason. So those guys should be significantly more comfortable. If that is the reason, maybe they just like Chris Moore, which you might also argue that should be adjusted. Maybe they just like Chris
I don't
Moore.
like drops on third down. I'll tell you, that's what I don't like.
I do not like that. No, I don't like the extended run game with screenplays and then the guy not blocking on the outside, which, Chris Moore had a great catch last week, and it was awesome.
That was about it.
That was about it. There's some other stuff that's left to be desired there that you would hope that guys that you drafted where they were drafted would then, fall into those sorts of positions and those sorts of roles. What do you anticipate is going to be the case when it comes to running the football? It feels like last week was a big Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt week. Had the fumble, second week in a row with a fumble. They are trending more to making him sort of the bell cow, if you will. This is always going to be a rotation of running backs, but it's felt like over the past couple of weeks he has gotten much more of a role in that. Do you anticipate that to remain the case, or do you think that we will see a much better mix, knowing that running the football is going to, if Washington is going to win, it's not going to be because Jaden throws it 40 times. It's going to be because they run the football incredibly well today against a Dallas defense that has been, despite the acquisition of Kenny Rogers from Green Bay, they have not been excellent at stopping the run. They haven't been excellent at anything on defense, but particularly at stopping the run.
I go back and I look at the 2 matchups last year where Washington played Dallas, and you mentioned Kenny Clark. He's a Pro Bowler acquisition in the middle of their defense, but Oso Odighizuwa whipped the interior three's ass last year in the 2 games. Talk about that guard-center guard combo, Allegretti, Biotish, and Cosme at the time. That matchup is going to be huge. I don't know how well Washington's going to be able to run the football, because if you go back to Monday night, the numbers look good, but the down-in, down-out success was not there. You saw more 0-yard runs, more negative runs than you had seen really all year, and I think that's a big-time credit to what, Chicago had on the interior with Dexter and then Andrew Billings whipping ass. So I look at today as you got to get it going, because I think to ask Jayden Daniels to just drop back 45 times, I think it's just not the way that this offense should ever function. The running game has to be a part of it. We'll see how the interior 3 handles Dallas this time around. And
it's worth pointing out, as you mentioned, a lot more 0 yards, a lot more negative plays. Those numbers look good because Jaden was really effective running the football, whereas in previous weeks it had been Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt was really good, and he was averaging 6 to 7 yards a carry, but legitimately 6 to 7 yards a carry, and you didn't really need Jaden or Marcus at the time to run the football. So I'd love to see the backs take the brunt of the work in the run game and have the success that they were having at earlier points this year. And I'm also glad that you mentioned those guys on the interior, because it is expected that they are going to see the return of should-have-been All-Pro Sam Cosmi. Cosmi is healthy. I don't know if he's going to start. I don't know if he's going to be on a snap count. I would hope not. But having him back in the lineup, I think, is going to be some sort of boost to Washington in the run game, just knowing that a leader is back. And then you don't really have to rely on your Wileys or the potential of an Allegretti, and you just get Cosmi. And then you get Paul on the other side, who has been a really, really strong player for them in the absence of one Brandon Coleman, who I am, once again, I think actually Lynnell, Brandon Coleman will dress today, but that's solely because there's so many wide receivers not dressing that you have to put a certain number of bodies on there, and he would fit into that number of bodies.
It'll be interesting to see if he can't get active with all these guys out. It may be curtains for him here. But to your point about Sam Cosmi's return to the lineup, I genuinely don't know what to expect. I'm a big proponent of the only way you get ready to play football is by playing football. Sam Cosmi has not played in a live game action. Didn't get the benefit of training camp where you're as close to live as you're going to be. Didn't get preseason reps. It's not easy to just walk in and just fight 300-pounders for 60 snaps out of a game. That's just not, he's special. He gets paid a lot of money to do it, but I don't know how well or how good rather he's going to look this afternoon. I'm interested to see from a household name standpoint. It's good that he's back in the lineup, but he's got his hands full because Oso Digizua and Kenny Clark are a really formidable duo on the interior.
How much have you watched that Dallas defense? Because I keep going back to a game that took place.
Yeah.
Really, there's two of them. It was the game against the Carolina Panthers where Rico Dowdle went nuts. Yeah. Just absurd. Former team. He told them to buckle up. They didn't buckle up. He goes for over 200 yards from scrimmage, effective in the run game and the pass game. I go back even further to basically making Russell Wilson look like Russell Wilson was playing in 2015 when he was at his peak. He could do no wrong against that Dallas defense. Do you believe that there's weaknesses on that defense that even with Washington's limited options in terms of the receiving game and the playmakers, that they'll be able to take advantage of?
I think they should be able to take advantage of it, man. Dallas is horrible defensively, but as we know, NFL's any given Sunday, man. You never know.
No Trayvon Diggs this week either.
And I think that may be a good thing for the Dallas Cowboys. They activated Kalen Carson off of injured reserve as well. He's a young DB that they have a lot of hope for. Trayvon Diggs hadn't played that well to start the year, and neither has Deron Bland. So
Trayvon Diggs hasn't played that well in a long time. He just was on the beneficiary of bad quarterback play.
Pretty much is how I will put it. But Washington, even without their wide receivers, should have the advantage in the passing game because Jaden Daniels, when he is right, and if he is able to play up to his standards, he's going to find guys. And I think Cliff Kingsbury has done a good job as anybody since he's taken over here in Washington as the OC, scheming guys open and having unique and diverse route concepts that will put the defense in conflict. So I think even minus the receivers, Washington should be able to move the football. But as I said a moment ago, if they can't establish themselves on the ground and they have to drop Jaden Daniels back 40-plus times, they're not going to win the football game.
No, that is not a recipe for success. Even if everybody was healthy, I don't know that I want to see JD throw it 45 times. That's just not a recipe for success. This is a balanced football team, and they need to really emphasize the balance, and they need to be able to run the football. Keep that Dallas offense off of the field. If you're thinking all is well on defense, I have some bad news. I'm going to share some of that bad. It's not awful news. But there's one player on the defense that might be compromised. We'll tell you who that is when we get back. Plus, Chris Russell's going to join us in 15 minutes' time. Kevin Sheehan at 3 p.m. He's Lynnell Willingham. I'm Denton Day. It's the Burgundy Gold pregame show live from Honor Brewing in Sterling. They got great game day food and drink specials. So come hang out with us if you're in the area, want to watch the game with a bunch of other Commanders fans. Back with the defense when we get back here on Team 980. Chris Russell's going to join us in 10 minutes here on Burgundy Gold pregame show. I am Denton Day. He is Lynnell Willingham on the Team 980. We're streaming on Twitter and YouTube as well on both 980 and 106.7 The Fan. It is Dallas week for the Commanders, so they are in Dallas taking on the Cowboys at 4:25. We'll take you all the way up to kickoff there. Lynnell, I teased this as we went to our break. We talked a lot about the offense, right? Yeah. And some of the struggles that the offense is going to have today because they don't have a lot of players. A lot of wide receivers, at least. We got news today, and the team tweeted this out. Deron Payne is sick.
Oh, really?
He's going to play, but Deron Payne is sick.
Sick like has a cough? Sick like in jeopardy of playing?
I never understand fully what they mean when they say he is sick. Like, is he vomiting? Does he have diarrhea?
I guess it's none of our business. HIPAA.
Does he have a fever?
It's a HIPAA violation.
It's kind of badass if, right before a play, he's like throwing up and then he gets a sack.
Well,
that'd be cool.
Be nasty. I'll be honest with you. That's
I would imagine
probably the worst.
I imagine when they say that a player is sick, they're not talking about like the sniffles.
He's probably like something seriously wrong with Deron.
Yeah, it's not like he has a scratchy throat. It's like no, he probably has a fever and he's just gonna gut through it, or he's probably having some stomach issues and had to have an IV, prior to the game, but he'll gut through it. He's been good this year. You got to have everybody on deck because Dallas can run the football.
Makes sense why they elevated Sheldon Day now because Deron Payne's been sick all weekend.
They should have had Sheldon Day out there last week, too. Yeah. I mean, just having a 3-man rotation at defensive tackle is not the brightest in the world. So I'm glad they got Sheldon Day up there. I also am not anticipating that Eddie Goldman is going to be inactive again today. I hope they learned their lesson from that. But it'll be interesting to see what that rotation then looks like and just how sick he is. Because I think it's one thing to say, hey, it's 2:00. I'm not feeling great, but I'm going to give it a go. And then you put the pads on. It's hot. You're sweating a little bit.
Sure, the sun's going to go. Sure, the roof's going to be open probably in Dallas.
That can either make or break the sickness that's going on there, right? So that's going to put some pressure, I think, on Javon Kinlaw, who's also been good this year. But now he is going to have to be really, really good if Deron Payne is compromised.
Yeah, I mean, the two of those guys, when they have wrecked shop in the middle of this defense, Washington has won the football game. Last week was not much of a shop-wrecking performance for those two.
It was not.
But really, Washington got gashed on the perimeter runs.
The outside.
The C-gap and the D-gap. But I think those two here this afternoon, talking about both Payne and Kinlaw, have to be good. The best way to me to disrupt Dak Prescott is interior pressure. He has been, one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in all the NFL this year. How they impact him on a down-in, down-out basis is going to tell the story of this football game. If you can't get to Dak Prescott, you will not get stops. And when you have really Justin Tucker for years was known as the best kicker in football.
Yeah.
That now belongs to Brandon Aubrey, in my opinion. The leg, whatever you want to call him, kicking from 65, kicking from 63. They got to cross midfield.
Yeah.
And he's good. So
Big boot Brandon over there.
Yeah, big boot Brandon. Stops are going to be hard to come by, especially if you can't get after and rattle Dak Prescott.
So the Dak Prescott numbers this year, he's been sacked 7 times in 6 games. Yeah. He's a tough guy to bring down, man. 1,600 yards, 13 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions, and done a lot of that without CeeDee Lamb on the field. And Dallas is getting CeeDee Lamb back. They've had a real big amount of success running the football. Javonte Williams has been pretty good, nearly 500 yards for him, 5 touchdowns on only 92 carries. So he's averaging 5.2 yards a pop. JP Finley put out some numbers earlier today on Twitter suggesting that Javonte Williams is one of the better guys in terms of the amount of yards he's expected to get on a play versus the amount of yards that he gets on the play. So he always makes more with less in terms of what's happening in front of him. Washington's going to have their work's going to be cut out for them. Because this Dallas offense is no slouch.
And it's a big, nasty, physical offensive line that they have. Their guard tandem, talking about Tyler Booker, who's coming back from injury this week, and then Tyler Smith. By the end of the season, we may be talking about them as the best interior duo in the National Football League. They are that good. Tyler Guyton at left tackle is really good. They're a legit group, man, up front. Their issues are all on defense. Their offense has had one stinker this year. It was against, ironically, the Bears, who turned them over several times and really got them out of rhythm. But Dallas is one of the most formidable groups offensively in the NFL. So Washington, they're going to have their work cut out for them,
man. Just to give you those numbers officially, the rush yards over exception for Javonte Williams, plus 148. That's a pretty impressive number. So they're going to have to be a really strong tackling team, and they're going to have to we haven't said this in a while, Lynnell, but it's true. We're going to need some rush lane discipline.
There we are.
Gap integrity, being smart when it comes to getting after the quarterback and getting after the running attack. Are you worried at all about the potential of Marshawn Lattimore either against CeeDee Lamb or particularly against George Pickens? We kind of know the history of George Pickens. He likes to box.
Yeah.
Marshawn Lattimore likes to get into it from time to time. Do either of those guys see the end of the game?
I hope so for Washington's case. Marshawn Lattimore has played really, really well over the last 2 weeks. I think this is the matchup tailor-made for him, though. George Pickens is not a speed guy. He's a physical, try to beat you at the catch point type of guy, and I think Marshawn Lattimore has actually been really, really good in that category throughout the entirety of the season. And I know the last couple of weeks he's been much more stickier in coverage, but when the ball is near him, he normally causes a DPI, normally causes a PBU. So I think he's tailor-made for this matchup today. Just don't leave him on CeeDee Lamb, and that's where Mike
I would like to see if I get to be a fantasy booker here, I would like to see CeeDee Lamb see a lot of Trey Amos.
Yeah.
I think right now Amos is the best corner on the team. He's playing with the most confidence on the team. So I would like Trey Amos to be the guy that sees the most of CeeDee Lamb, and that's who I want CeeDee Lamb to see the most of. I think there is a advantage is the wrong word, but that's the best option for Washington.
Yeah, look, they've been reluctant to travel any corners this year. I do know this. Mikey Sainristil has been Washington's slot corner. He's their most targeted corner. He's given up the most yards. He's got the highest quarterback rating against him when targeted in this secondary. Today, like you said, maybe a day where I do consider, traveling Trey Amos, but Jonathan Jones was just activated off IR. Is he a guy that if Mikey Sainristil plays like he played last week, does he begin to eat into some of Mikey's snaps? Because they brought him here for a reason. He's a veteran that's had a ton of success in this league, playing slot corner.
As
Mikey's
we're
leash
talking
would be a
about
little short for me. I can't lie.
He
has had a bad start.
There must be something going on in the building because Mikey was also under the weather this week.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I found that out.
That makes sense.
I found that out on TikTok.
Oh, so did I actually, based off of the dinner that was made for him, with the soup that was made for him.
There must be something going on in the locker room. If he's under the weather a little bit, Deron Payne is under the weather.
And Eddie Goldman missed last week because he was under the weather.
Was under the weather. So they need a bunch of liquid IVs and some face steamers or something.
Yeah.
Whatever it is to get that out of there. All right, when we get back, Chris Russell's going to jump on with us. Kevin Sheehan's going to join us at 3 p.m. If you need a place to come watch the game, Lynnell and I are live in Sterling at Honor Brewing. They got a bunch of specials, game day specials on food and drink, and it's just an all-around great time. So come hang out with us. We are here for the entirety. We'll be live for halftime and post-game as well. Chris Russell joins us next year on the Team 980.
Yeah, we are.
It's the Burgundy and Gold pregame show. He is Lynnell Willingham. I am Denton Day. We're live from Honor Brewing in Sterling. About 2 hours from kickoff between Washington and Dallas. We'll take you all the way up to kickoff here on the Team 980 and 106.7 The Fan. It's an honor and privilege now to get our guy Chris Russell up on the program with us. Roos, we appreciate you making some time for us.
You got it, fellas.
Washington is out their number one receiver, their number two receiver, their number three receiver. Zach Ertz was listed as questionable yesterday. Deron Payne is sick. How do they win this football game?
Don't know. I guess the easiest way I can answer that is the Dallas Cowboys defense. I mean, if people think that the Commanders defense is bad, and it's really not as bad as people think it is, if the Commanders defense is allegedly bad, the Cowboys defense is all-time horrendous.
Yeah.
I was looking at some numbers last night. I mean, they've given up like 60-some-odd more points than the Commanders. Now, they played a couple of overtime games, granted, but still, it's horrendous. And Trayvon Diggs being gone today might actually be a blessing. Yeah. He and Deron Bland have struggled. They play a lot of soft zone. People have carved up that zone. It helps that Zach Ertz looks like he's going to play. We haven't gotten the official inactives yet. But, guys, this is a defense that, quite honestly, just manhandled the Commanders for a lot of the two games last year. Not every moment of the two games, but it did. But they had Micah Parsons and they had DeMarcus Lawrence, I think, for one out of the two games. It doesn't look like the same defense, and that defense was problematic last year. So if they can somewhat neutralize Lynnell's guy up front, Osa Odighizuwa,
yeah.
I think the Commanders should be able to get to work against those linebackers and those corners.
So, Chris, I have kind of zigged when everyone zagged this week in terms of where we were placing the blame for what happened on Monday Night Football. And I'm going back to the well this week. We're talking about what needs to happen for Washington to win. We need a vintage Jayden Daniels performance. I'm talking about the Jayden Daniels we saw during that 6-game winning streak in the postseason last year. We need the offensive rookie of the year to show up because that guy, if you're being open, honest, and objective about it, we have not seen him yet through the first 6 weeks of the season. What do you expect from him this afternoon? What are your expectations?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think he played well on Monday night, despite playing well at times. I think there was a lot more there that didn't actually go in the box score, that didn't actually happen, that happened, if you will, that I saw from my perch, and that people have forgotten about. He did not play well on Monday night. Forget about the fumble, forget about the interception. There were other things. That being said, it's hard for me to ask him to be Superman today when you consider, again, what D-Day mentioned and what we've all kind of been facing the reality of with no Terry, no Noah, and now officially no Debo. I want him to be efficient. I want running back screens. I want quick game. I want quick game accuracy. I want slants. I want get the ball out of his hands, get him in rhythm, get him early. And I want a deep shot early in this game. I think we talked about this, maybe Lynnell, you and I this week. I can't remember. I know I mentioned it on my show. Guys, I would start every game, no matter who the opponent was, no matter who my quarterback was, no matter what my offensive line situation is, with taking a deep shot on the first series, maybe the second series at the latest, just to make sure that the defense is reminded, hey, man, we can take a deep shot, even without Terry, even without whoever they're missing, right? Put the fear of, you know what, in them, that you would be willing to go to a deep post, that you would be willing to go to a deep go in a big spot. To me, I think that'll loosen some things up underneath for McCaffrey and Jalen and Zach Ertz and so on and so forth. And I hope that if they can take care of the football today, which obviously they did not on Monday, and obviously we know Bill is 2 games in a row, if they can take care of the football today, I hope with that and with that stretching or that fear of stretching the field against a porous Cowboy defense, that should loosen up things enough underneath for him to get into a good rhythm.
So, Roost, with the potential of Zach Ertz being we'll say limited, even if he does play. Do you think that is going to result in a bigger role in the pass game for a guy like Ben Sinnott?
I mean, it should, right? I mean, what if it doesn't happen today? What other day is it going to happen? D-Day, right? I mean, seriously, like that might be. And listen, I think John Bates is a better receiver than his numbers tell us he is. But
last year he fumbled against Dallas, so
no, I know, but I mean, one of those two guys needs to step up and be more of a factor. We're not talking about 7 or 8 catches, for God's sakes. We're talking about 3 or 4 catches. Can we get that? Can we get something like that? Can we get, like they're going to run, the Dallas Cowboys are going to run tight end and fullback flats all day long today, right? They're going to try and isolate these linebackers, whether it be Wagner or Luvu or Quan Martin from the safety spot or whoever. They're going to try and run. I mean, Jake Ferguson is going to, have his day, and he's going to be targeted a bunch. Was it the fullback? I think that got a little fullback flat route touchdown last week against Carolina to get Dallas on the board. So why not? Why can't we do that? Like, why can't that be a bigger part of the offense, meaning non-Zach Ertz division?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This Commanders pass rush this afternoon, Chris, to me is going to be the determining factor. We know Dorrance Armstrong is banged up coming into this one.
Yeah.
Your expectations for a group that is Jekyll and Hyde as the entire team has been all year.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it, because when they've dominated and they've owned the game and they've controlled the game and they've taken advantage of their opportunities. When they played against a half healthy, half good. Oh gosh, Drake May is walking off. Oh no, it's not Drake May. Sorry. It is Drake May.
Head just slammed.
It is Drake May. Oh man. Sorry, I got distracted. When they haven't been able to dominate and control, they've gotten ambushed, right? So this Cowboy offensive line is better, I think, than the Chargers' decimated offensive line, than the Giants' offensive line, than the Raiders' offensive
Even
line.
the Bears last week, Chris.
Yeah, but I think the Bears on the interior are pretty darn strong. But this Cowboy offensive line is pretty, all things considered, now they've had a bunch of injuries, is pretty good. So I would say, to me, I'm not expecting anything great today, especially if DA is not available, which even if he is, he's going to be limited to some degree. So here's my thing. Like, even again with CeeDee Lamb returning and George Pickens killing everybody, and we mentioned Ferguson and how good they've run the ball and Dak being as smart as he is. Guys, I go back to, I don't know if y'all remember, 2014 on a Monday night, the Cowboys were like 6-1. And my guy Jim Haslett blitzed the ever-loving crap out of Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, right? And look, you might get burnt and you might look bad, but if you're Joe Witt, blitz 37% of the time, 40% of the time today, for God's sakes. Throw some. I saw Darnell Savage on a safety blitz, and he should have gotten home, and he had his arms wrapped around Caleb Williams, and it led to a defensive play stop. He didn't actually get this. Like, to me, this is what you need to do when you're probably overmatched by their talent and their offensive line. You need to create some advantages that they have not been able to create against good offensive lines.
Why do you think that Joe Witt hasn't been blitzing as frequently, or at least it feels like he hasn't been blitzing as frequently?
Statistically, they're amongst the top half.
I was going to say they're 7th, I think. I put it up last night according to Pro Football Reference. But to your point, D-Day, and this is always, I don't know, like you guys know I'm not an analytic amigo,
it's not
right?
Effective, is what I would say.
Right.
Well, it's not only not effective, but I don't view blitzes as 5-man pressures.
Like, right. I want 6. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, to me, there's a difference where the blitz comes from or how many you're sending.
And what we've seen, I feel like what we've seen when watching this defense this year, tell me if I'm wrong, boys, their A-gap blitzes have not worked, right?
No.
When Bobby Wagner's trying to get downhill, I want more out of the secondary, like you mentioned, getting free rushers to where we're not having to avoid blockers, man.
I mean, they worked against the Raiders. They haven't worked else. And he had one other one against, I think it was against the Chargers, maybe. But outside of that, it hasn't worked. To me, I think they're going to, especially if Armstrong is not there, but even if he is, he's likely going to be very limited. And he was in, out on Monday night, right? So to me, like, again, I mentioned the Darnell Savage one. Like, if you want to untrack Quan Martin, if you want to untrack Mikey Sandersdale, and by the way, I think Jonathan Jones is probably going to play a decent amount for Mikey Sandersdale today, and I wouldn't be totally stunned if he starts. I'm not saying he will. I don't know, but I mean,
I'm drinking that Kool-Aid as well.
Exactly, but my point is get those guys, get some oil running through that engine, as I like to say, right? Get them lathered up, get them involved in the game early. You know, you want to ride violently, you want to ball his life me. How about creating some turnovers? How about creating some advantageous situations where guys are blitzing off the edge, where they're coming from Amarillo instead of right, in front of you? I like, do something.
Yeah, something's got to give for this Commanders defense. I know we're running out of time with you, my friend, so we're getting official prediction.
Well, I want an official prediction, Rooster, but I got one more question for you.
What
do you think the rotation is going to be running back wise? Krosky Merritt has gotten elevated snaps, elevated touches. Do you anticipate, though, because they are limited on the outside, that they're going to be more of a focus on the run game, which in turn would lead to more of a rotation?
I would think so, but I think I would not sleep on Jeremy McNichols today. Both as a runner and as a receiver, and because of his pass protection skills, right? Especially with Rodriguez banged up, and I'm not sure, I haven't seen anything new on him, whether he's going to be active or not, but he's been banged up for the last couple of weeks, right? And Bill's ball security issues, right? I mean, you cannot win this game, in my opinion, by turning the ball over more than once, right? So maybe it's just an isolated 2-game, like, it'll never happen again sample size, but now I'm scared to death of every time Bill's got the ball. I am. So to me, I think McNichols will probably be a bigger factor in this game. They do obviously have to run. I do not want Jaden running quarterback power, quarterback draw, quarterback, read option, pull all the game long and running the ball 16, 17, 18 times, no matter what anybody wants to say. I don't want that because he's, remember, he got banged up a little bit on that Brisker late hit in the fourth quarter the other night, right? I mean, what happens if he starts to struggle through this game, if he gets hit a little bit low or a little bit late or whatever, right? So to me, like the Commanders, there's ways to get around what they're missing today. Yeah. They're just going to have to do some of the things that they probably and ideally don't want to do on a normal basis. But don't be afraid to do them. McNichols is one of them. Again, targeting some of those the backup tight ends, Sinnott or Bates is another one. Running.
What about the idea of lining your tight ends up out wide? I'm getting tired of watching these receivers miss blocks.
Well,
Tate Martin got cut because him and Colson Yankov blocked the same dude on a Debo Samuel screen that lost 4 and put him behind the sticks.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of different things that they can do to get this offense, and it's not like it's not humming, but it doesn't feel crystal clean, and it hasn't felt crystal clean all year, despite some of the production, right? So to me, listen, here's another real quick thing. Please, Matt Gay, don't miss any field goals, because you know what? That other guy ain't going to probably miss any field goals. I'm not saying he won't, because he has missed field goals. He missed 2 against the Commanders in Ron Rivera's final game. The bottom line is you have a disadvantage on paper in that area. You cannot be giving up points, especially indoors. And one other thing real quickly, guys, that I'm worried about, I worry about these stupid things, the sun monster. Remember what that building is like on fall afternoons, October, November, at the time that this game is being played. I was hoping for a 1:00 game or a night game for this game. Instead, it's right in that window. And if the sun monster comes back and haunts the Commanders, you damn well sure I'm going to be screaming tomorrow about it.
Yeah.
All right, Roos, give us a pick. Who wins?
Unfortunately, I think the Cowboys win a tight one. I got 34-31 is what I think I went with.
So the over. All right, cool. I'll bet that. Roos, we appreciate it as always, my friend.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate you. Have fun.
Was good. I hope your nap was good earlier, pal.
It was great, man. When you're as old as me, you have got to.
I know you were having a ball. I know you're having a ball. You probably had something good to eat to watch the overseas game this morning. I know how your Sunday's going.
I mean, absolutely.
Doing it the right way, my friend.
You want to know what I had to eat?
What'd you have? Tell us.
Little broccoli and cheese soup from Panera.
Ow!
In a bread bowl or just normal?
He's
no,
watching
not
his
in a bread
carbs.
bowl.
He's
not
watching his
not in a bread
carbs.
bowl. That's too many carbs.
My bad.
Yeah,
My
it's
bad.
too many carbs.
My
I
bad.
would
That's
love
okay.
it in a bread bowl, but that's too many carbs.
It's really good in a bread bowl.
Yes,
But
it is.
for your next cheat meal, you could do that.
Well,
all right, Roos.
here's the thing: when you have a cheat meal every single day and every single meal,
Yeah.
you can't really call something a cheat meal.
Well, there we go.
Fair enough. That
Thank
is
you,
Chris
boys.
Russell. He's the host of the Chris Russell Show, 1 to 4 p.m. on the team, 980 Monday through Friday. When we get back, we'll continue examining this game. We are going to have the inactive list soon, and I am very excited and nervous for that, Lynnell. So we'll touch on that when we return. He's Lynnell Willingham. I'm Denton Day. We are live from Honor Brewing in Sterling. Coming out with us is a Burning Gold pregame show. It's the Burgundy Gold pregame show. He is Lynnell Willingham. I'm Denton Day. Kevin Sheehan going to be with us in 10 minutes here on the program as we get set for Dallas week, the first of two this week. They're in Dallas. The Commanders are. It's a 4:25 kick. We'll take you all the way up to kickoff here on Team 980 and both YouTube and Twitter as well. So we've been talking a lot about the offense, Lynnell. It's a big focal point of this week because there's a lot of question marks. What is it going to look like? Who is going to make the plays this entire year? Despite the fact that they're still having success, they're scoring the football at a pretty high clip. They're running the football at a pretty high clip. There are still some weaknesses on the offense, and that's something that Cliff Kingsbury addressed this week. I thought it was interesting, so I want to play that and have us react to it. This was Cliff at his press availability on Thursday talking about some of the struggles of the offense.
We haven't played very well on third down, and we're, I know, near the bottom of the league, and I think that combined with turnover margin, very fortunate to be 500 at this point because those are two critical areas. But, it starts with me, game plan, play calling, and then we just have to – the sense of focus and urgency on that down distance has to get better because we have to continue to stay on the field, and we can't rely on fourth down every time to keep it rolling.
So that's Cliff talking about the issues on third down, Lynnell. I know this is something you addressed this week on Burgundy and Gold today on the Team 980 every 4 to 7 every Monday through Friday. The third down struggles have been very prevalent. We haven't seen them on nearly as many fourth downs this year, I think, because of that, because they're not having success getting any sort of yards on third down, which is not leading to fourth and shorts that would then be in situations where you go for it. How can they make adjustments to it? Because last year, that was one of the things they excelled at, and it feels like the pendulum has completely swung the other way this year.
You're seeing an offensive group that just hasn't had enough time on task together. This is what happens when you don't play in the preseason. This is what happens when you shuffle your offensive line throughout the entirety of training camp, when you have receivers in and out of the lineup. They are killing themselves on first and second down. Washington has the 12th most third and longs in the NFL, talking about attempts. It's because they're shooting themselves on the foot on first and second down. Sometimes it's poor execution. Like I mentioned earlier, there was a screen pass on Monday night where Colson Yankoff and Tay Martin blocked the same guy. Clearly, Tay Martin's making a mistake on first down. Instead of it being 2nd and 6 because you got 4 and executed properly, it's now 2nd and 12 because you lost 2 yards. So their inability to have success on first and second down is really leading to the third down numbers. And I think, Denton, you made the best point that anybody's made all year on this pregame show. They haven't had the fourth down attempts because they're never in fourth and manageable.
Right.
It was a cheat code for them last year, and I think it really extended a lot of drives. We sleep on how big of an impact the fourth down stuff had on this offense last year. They're getting essentially extra at-bats, basically, because they're putting themselves in fourth and manageable. You have a dual-threat quarterback in Jaden Daniels that can do just about anything in that down and distance. So I think it's going to be huge here this afternoon. Quite literally, Denton, it's got to be points every single possession. I do not think, and I hate to talk about our defense in this manner, I don't think we're capable of getting a stop unless Dallas screws themselves up, which we know is a possibility.
It is a possibility, but you're right. If you see Tress way more than, I would put that line at 2.5. If you see him more than 3 times, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to see Dallas's punter. I don't even know what the name of Dallas's punter is, and I got to be honest, I'm probably not going to know what the name of Dallas's punter by the end of the afternoon today, because they're really effective. They're really efficient in a way that Washington right now has not been, because they're healthy and the offensive line has been sensational. There are a number of reasons why Dallas has been really good and why Washington has not been really good. I will take a little bit of joy in this, though, Lynnell, because it does seem like we're just punching down on the team a little bit. I promise we're not. A lot of the issues are fixable.
Yes.
So it's not like they're just, hey, this is not going to get better for the entirety of the year. It's just guys have to execute. And guys will eventually execute. Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Like it is a potential. There is an avenue for them to eventually execute. It just needs to be done. And guys, well, not like Tay Martin anymore, but like a Chris Moore, in extended opportunities, Jalen Lane, McCaffrey, Ben Sinnott, John Bates, all of the guys that we are going to see a lot of today, they're getting a lot more. There's a lot more on their plate. They need to execute in that. And once they turn the corner, this offense is going to be fine.
Yeah, I really do believe
But they have to turn the corner first. Like that is easier said than done. You have to turn the corner. Once you get there, everything will be good.
And it's a pure execution thing. That's the best way that I can put it. Whether it's pre-snap penalties, whether it's blown assignments, for whatever reason, they are consistently, and I just gave you the numbers, these are via SumerSports.com, they are in 3rd and 7 plus, the 12th most in the National Football League. that ain't where you want to live. It's not where they lived last year, to your point.
All right, so we have the official inactives for Washington. You get Debo Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
You get Josh Johnson. He's the emergency third. You get Terry. We knew that. You get the UCLA linebacking duo of Ali Cahill and Kane Moderno. For what is this now, the fourth week in a row? Brandon Coleman.
He may be a
inactive.
trade chip at the deadline.
George Fant, inactive. Eddie Goldman's going to play. Robbie Chosen is on the active roster. Jonathan Jones is on the active roster. Sam Cosmi's on the active roster. He's going to be good to go. And then Sheldon Day is on the active roster. He's going to be good to go. So you're going to see a lot of bodies. Eddie Goldman excites me because it was very clear that he was not available last week. And then the expectation is that, Jacory Brooks could potentially see some time today as well. But your wide receivers are going to be Lane, McCaffrey, Moore, and Robbie Chosen.
Yeah, so I got to see. So did Jacory get called up yesterday? Or was it just Chosen?
I guess you're right. Jacory is probably got sent back down. I
got to go check. Don't quote me on that. So the elevations yesterday were Robbie Chosen and Sheldon Day. So I think Robbie Chosen is going to be – I don't know if they're going to continue to feed Chris more snaps. If he's not going to catch the football, he's not going to block. I know he came up with a big touchdown, but got to have some more down in, down out consistency. I am curious to see the way that they operate up front. I know we're expecting this offense to be fireworks. Is it going to be fireworks because of the passing game or the ground game? That's the question.
That's a great question, and it's also worth noting Dorrance Armstrong is going. Zach Ertz is going, so that's positive for Washington. When we get back, our guy Kevin Sheehan's going to jump on with us. We're an hour and 25 minutes from kickoff. We're live at Honor Brewing in Sterling. Come hang out with us. Have a good time. They got specials on food and drink. He's the No Willingham. I'm Denton Day. Kevin Sheehan joins us next. Less than 90 minutes from kickoff in Dallas. Commanders on the road taking on the Cowboys. It's a big one for Washington. Must win feels a little too much, Lynnell, but you'd really like to have this one.
About to say it's as close to a must-win game as you could get. You don't want to fall to 1-4 in the NFC. You've already got losses against potential wild cards in Atlanta, Green Bay. So it's going to be tough, man.
You don't want to start stacking those up. We gave you the official list of inactives. No Terry as we knew. No Debo as we knew. Thankfully for Washington, Dorrance Armstrong available. Zach Ertz available. So that is good news for the Commanders. What's good news for you is that our guy Kevin Sheehan's going to jump on with us.
There
he
we
joins
go.
us now. He's the host of the Kevin Sheehan Show, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time on the Team 980 Monday through Friday. Kevin, what's your expectation for what this offense is going to look like with no wide receiver 1, 2, or 3?
Well, it's the right team to play without, your full array of weapons because they're a terrible defensive team. People have run on them. They've thrown on them. They've done both simultaneously almost. So I'm concerned to have, Debo and Terry out for a fourth straight game. But I feel like this is the team that you can still have some success against offensively. And I think that they can run the football, especially with Cosme back. Hopefully, we'll see how much he plays. I would assume they didn't activate him for him to sit. But I still like Washington's chances to have success offensively today.
Kevin, is this the first game this year that we get that vintage Jaden Daniels performance similar to the guy that we saw down the stretch last year that led this group to the NFC Championship game? Because while he hasn't been bad, I don't think he's had that mistake-free game, and we saw a lot of that last year where they put a lot on his shoulders and he just didn't make the wrong decision very often. We've seen that a couple of different times here this year to start.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've had that, unbelievable Jaden performance where it includes, kind of a walk-off, last-second win. But he's been awfully good the last 2 weeks minus the turnovers. The turnovers were killers. You can't erase them. They happened. And the last one, obviously, was the game changer. They could have walked out of there -2 with a win instead of -3 and a loss. And the only reason I think we all understand this, that they even were in that game and had a chance with 3 turnovers was because of him. And he's going to have to do it today too. But I think that they can do a lot more than just rely on Jaden today. I think they can run the football. Krosky Merritt can't put it on the ground anymore because one more time I would imagine they'd start to lose some confidence in putting him out there. I wouldn't be surprised, guys, if we see a lot of McNichols today as a runner on first and second down. But today's one of those days where, teams have to if you're a good team, you have to overcome the loss of a lot of key players. They're not missing him, which means they have a chance.
Kevin, I was going to ask you about that running back rotation today. Do you think that we see a lot more of McNichols and Chris Rodriguez in the run game after, Bill has gotten a majority of the carries over the past 2 weeks, but has had those fumbles?
I definitely think there's a chance, Denton, we're going to see more of McNichols. I mean, all of us have known that they've liked him from the jump, and they've just been looking for opportunities. And every single opportunity he's gotten, he's taken advantage of, including the last 2 weeks, turning second and third and longs into first downs on check down throws. So I think they like him. I think they like him to protect the football. I think they like him to protect Jaden as a pass protector. So yeah, it's not going to surprise me if we see him get more snaps. But I hope that they don't give up on Bill quite yet because he's still got an opportunity, I think, to really have a breakout game, and it could be today.
Kevin, they activated 2 guys off of the inactive list on Saturday. You saw Sam Cosme. You also saw Jonathan Jones get elevated. How short of a leash do you think Mikey Sanders still has right now based off how he's played to start this year? And then how often or how much do you expect to see Jonathan Jones?
It's a good question. He hasn't played well. It's surprising, I think, to everybody. And it's year to year with these things, especially with young players. And he had a great year last year. And This year he's not having a great year, but it doesn't mean that he's not going to get better as this year goes along, or he's really good next year. But I would not be surprised, given what they're facing today, that they activated Jonathan Jones because they need a veteran against two incredible wide receivers with Lamb coming back and the number one tight end in terms of receptions in the league. This is going to be the challenge, guys. And the only way, they get out of here is if offensively they match them and they keep the ball away. You got to treat every offensive drive today like it's borderline a game-winning drive, and that means 4 downs are in play all day. I just don't know how the defense holds up unless Dallas hurts themselves with penalties and turnovers.
I was going to say, what is the plan when it comes to stopping those wideouts? Do you trust Amos enough to say, "Hey, we're gonna put you on an island a lot"?
I think do I trust him? I think I trust him more than anybody else right now, but that's not saying a lot.
It's a low bar.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many problems defensively, and this is a terrible matchup because Dallas is balanced. Javonte Williams has been good. They can run the football. They're getting healthier today along their offensive line in addition to getting CeeDee Lamb back. So this is one of those days, the NFL, you just never know, but it could be one of those days where you just get somehow a couple of key penalties that go against the Cowboys that derail drives. You need 3 of those, or in a drop pass or 2 to get off the field because I don't think they can line it up and actually slow them down if everything goes as scheduled. I think
I agree.
Typically I prefer to go down swinging, but today might be one of those days to keep everything in front of you and just try to tackle well and get them in the red zone or get them with a mistake before the red zone. Because they can strike quickly, and obviously Washington's given up a lot of explosive plays.
Kevin, I go back to Washington's offense, and they weren't able to run the football that well last week. I know game flow kind of got them away from it, too. I think it was something like close to 4 yards a pop, but last year in the 2 matchups against Dallas, man, they really struggled with their traditional running game. I know in the first game the numbers looked good, but that was a byproduct of Jayden Daniels making some plays. How important is it, minus the receivers, for them to get their running game back on track, not just being efficient with the run game, Kevin, but being back to dominant the way they were?
Yeah, it always helps. And this team's proven that they can kind of overcome a lot of bad down and distance over the last, 24, 25 games with Jayden at quarterback. But you don't want to be in that. And, I think I caution a little bit about last year's matchups just because it's a completely different, defensive coaching staff for the Cowboys. That was, they just had a different group last year. And we'll see. They've struggled a lot defensively. I would be surprised if Washington doesn't have some success running the football, and it should start behind Big Chris Paul and Laramie Tunsil. Even with the counter stuff, counter back that way.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm not. Last week was tough going for sure offensively on the ground, but today should be a completely different deal altogether. And by the way, I don't think you take Jayden out of the run game. I think he's got to be a part of it as well.
Kevin, if I give you 3 options, you get Jalen Lane, you get Luke McCaffrey, you get Ben Sinnott. Who do you think is more likely to have over 75 receiving yards today?
It's weird that you asked that question. I had this vision earlier today of Ben Sinnott catching his first touchdown pass. Right? Does he have a touchdown catch? I don't think so.
Well, I can tell you I
think he has 1. Yeah,
I can tell you it's 13-1 to catch a touchdown
for
him today.
I was going to go look at it right before kickoff. What is he?
13-1.
Yeah, because I could definitely see them in some 12 and even 13 personnel with, by the way, Trent Scott, and throwing off of that, with play action. And somebody like Sinnott, especially in the red zone or in goal line, could end up being the guy that shakes free and is wide open. But in terms of over 75 passing yards, I would say McCaffrey. That would be my wager.
I think they'll take a couple deep shots. And I think McCaffrey's going to end up being the guy that they target on some of those deep shots.
Just watching Dallas last week against Carolina, like dudes were just running wide open. So like they should be able to throw the football. They should be able to score. It's just about are they going to get?
They should be able to run the football too. Carolina's pretty good in along the offensive line. They've been able to run the football a little bit, but they should definitely be able to run it. If they can run it, then play action's going to work. And I'm much more interested in how they steal defensively, out of 10 drives, 3 or 4 of them. Yeah. And hold Dallas, to some field goals in the red zone. They're going to have to steal 4 drives in this game to have a legitimate chance to win it. And I think they can. Somehow they will. And at the same time, they can't have 4 stolen from them. We can't end up with Tressway punting, more than 2 or 3 times.
All right, Kevin, before we get you out of here, who wins? Do they get back to 500?
Yeah, I think this is one of these games, I don't know what's going to happen, obviously. Nobody does. But I have a feeling I think they're desperate, and I think Dallas is too, but I think Washington's got the better quarterback. They've got the better opportunity offensively or defensively to get off the field. It's not a great opportunity. I like Washington in a really exciting game, something like 28-26. I don't think you guys have confidence, right?
I'm actually I'm more confident than Lynnell is right now. I don't feel terrible because, Kevin, you know this. I'm paying attention to the lines, and the fact that the lines haven't really moved a ton, even after the Terry injury, I think Washington has a much better chance than people are giving them credit for.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I think they have it. I think they've got a really good opportunity, and it could really be one of those defining wins of the season with the players they have down. It could be a real confidence builder, and it feels like they need it with what's on tap next Monday night.
Yeah, because that team looks good. If there was any doubt about the Kansas City Chiefs, doubt has been crushed over the past 2 weeks. They look back.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, enjoy the witching hour, as it's called in this opening window. We
let's go get one. They need it today.
That's Kevin Sheehan. He's the host of the Kevin Sheehan Show from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Monday through Friday on the Team 980. Washington looking to get back over 500. They're 3-3, looking to get to win number 4 against a 2-3-1 Dallas Cowboy team. We're under 90 minutes away from kickoff, Lynnell. Grant Paulson's going to be with us in 15 minutes. I want to get some keys to the game here for Washington. I got 2 big ones that I'm going to share with the listeners when we get back, and they'll hopefully lead to a Washington win. He's Lynnell Willingham. I'm Denton Day. We're live from Honor Brewing in Sterling. Come hang out with us if you need a spot to watch the game. Our Burgundy and Gold pregame show continues next on the Team 980. Pregame show. Denton, Day, and Lynnell, Willingham. We are live from Honor Brewing in Sterling for the Commanders and the Cowboys. That game will be played in Dallas. Washington at a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to available weapons for Jaden Daniels. He's going to have to go superhero mode, Lynnell. He's going to have to go Shohei Ohtani mode.
Yeah,
whatever the equivalent of that is in the NFL is what Jaden's going to have to do if Washington's going to come away with a win, because they don't have wide receiver 1, 2, and 3. I got some keys to the game that I have for you.
I beg of you.
They start, of course, on the offense. And the key is pretty simple. It's be efficient.
Yeah.
I'm not reinventing the wheel here. It's be efficient. We listened to a clip about 30 minutes ago from Cliff Kingsbury where he said we are not effective on third downs the way that we need to be effective on third downs. So they need to be efficient on downs 1 and 2 to get themselves in third and manageables, and then potentially get themselves into fourth and manageable. One of the most exciting things about last year was the fact that if it was 4th and 4, they're going and you aren't stopping them because they have the best player on the field and you don't. They need to get themselves back into those sorts of positions, and that comes with being efficient on first and second down. If that requires putting tight ends out there on screens, put tight ends out there on screens because you know they're going to lay the block. So I need Washington to be efficient. Whatever the utopian offense that Cliff Kingsbury has in his head where he thinks of efficient football and that's what he pictures, I need that version of Washington today.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I look at them and go on both sides of the football, right? Offensively, touchdowns over field goals, and then defensively, field goals over touchdowns for the offense. Washington tied for 12th in red zone touchdowns this year. So normally when they get down there, they are finishing with 7. I think it's super duper important today. I don't want to see Matt Gay. I don't want to see Tress Way. And then for the defense, when you think about being the oldest team in the National Football League, probably the slowest defense in the National Football League, give up all the yards you want to in between the 20s, and then when you get in that high red zone area, we saw them turn into a different defense, man. They're 11th in the NFL in terms of forcing field goal attempts in the red zone. So Washington has to have those 2 numbers come to fruition here today and hopefully help them out.
My next key comes on defense.
Yeah.
You got to get after Dak Prescott. If Dak Prescott is going to be upright for all the game, it's going to be a very long afternoon for Washington. It's going to be a very long afternoon for the defense. He's only been sacked 7 times, so your work is absolutely cut out for you. But you have good players. Those good players need to be great players today. I need Javon Kinlaw to be awesome. I need Daron Payne to be awesome. Dorrance Armstrong is playing. I know he's limited, but I need him to be awesome. Von Miller, if he wants to turn the clock back about 10 years, now would be a great time to do so. You have to get after the quarterback. Dak is too good, and they got too many weapons on offense. There's not going to be a lot of covered sacks, I don't think. It needs to be guys winning matchups, and some of that is going to be Joe Witt might have to get a little uncomfortable and send 6 guys and trust that they'll be able to get there quick. Frankie Louvu might need to be a game wrecker for the first time in 2025 because we haven't seen that version of him this season. But somebody needs to get after Dak Prescott. He's too good of a quarterback, and he's having too good of a season to just sit there and do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key to this football game. And when you look at the first 6 weeks, it's been the key to their season. When they have harassed opposing quarterbacks, they've won. When they haven't, they've lost. It's a pretty simple formula. Look, J.P. Finley said something brilliant to me, shocker, right? A couple of weeks ago. He was like, Lynnell, man, they've tried to monopolize the game of football to where we worry about everything that what really matters. It's one in the line of scrimmage, right? Offensive line, defensive line play normally determines whether you win or lose. I think for Washington, that's going to be the biggest key today. Once again, can you win the matchup up front? Specifically on the offensive line, I'm looking at the interior 3, the guard center guard combo. Chris Paul, who's been brilliant. Tyler Biadasz, who was not very good last week. And then the return of Sam Cosmi. So those 3 got a ball. And then, like you mentioned, the D-line has the ball as well.
I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to be super optimistic here. It's going to hit like crack when Sam Cosmi levels Kenny Clark for the first time. When he just decleats him, pancakes him. Maybe they're going to have on the first drive, Cosmi pulling as they kind of I saw that as they kind of counter to the left side towards Brandon Coleman and Chris Paul. I want Sam Cosmi to just destroy somebody, and as soon as that does, I'm gonna be like the meme. It's Cookie Monster on the toilet. It's The Rock in the WWE smacking his arm because it just feels good. I'm gonna be like that because when that happens for the first time, and it will happen, I'm gonna be live in Honor Brewing here.
I think, you know what? I just saw Kevin Sheehan said he had a vision earlier today. I just had a vision just now in real time here at Honor Brewing. I can see it now. Why were we so excited about the acquisition of Josh Connolly? because the right side of that offensive line with him and Cosme getting out and cracking corners and linebackers on screens, they're a pretty athletic duo. I worry about Cosme playing in a phone booth today because he just hasn't been in a fight in a long time. I don't worry about him getting on the perimeter and running and using that athleticism.
You know, it is going to be interesting to see the first two drives.
Yeah.
Like the first two drives in particular, what I'm really going to be watching with Sam Cosme, because he's now playing next to Josh Connolly.
Yeah.
And they haven't had a ton of reps, ton of opportunities, certainly not in game speed of playing next to one another. And in spite of all of the positive and negative that has happened over the last couple of weeks, you know whose name we really haven't said a lot on the pregame show in the last 3 weeks?
Who's that?
Josh Connolly.
Yeah.
And that's a really good thing as a rookie offensive lineman. We're not saying your name a lot because you're not giving us reason to say it. Normally, if we're saying your name as an offensive lineman, it's not a good thing.
Right.
But he's played really well the last couple of weeks. I don't think he's gotten enough credit for that. So I am going to be a great human being and give him that credit. But I'm going to see is going to be interesting. The first two possessions are going to be really key as to Sam Cosme getting used to and accustomed to playing with another guy and a rookie at that on his outside right.
I agree with you, man. And I think here's the interesting part about it, and it's terrible, obviously, how Cosme's season ended last year. Down the stretch, he was a little nicked up, and his play suffered as a result of him being nicked up. I'm happy to see him back at 110%. We know how good he is, and the reason this regime came in and wasted no time paying him. Notice they paid him before they paid Terry McLaurin. And we don't even have to get into that conversation, but they came in and immediately paid.
They also paid him in September of last year, and he was there for whatever. Never mind.
Either or. I think his return to the lineup and his impact is going to be huge, man. I really do think that if he's right, because it's his first game back, I do have some concerns. If he's right and he is Sam Cosme, we know what he brings to the table.
We'll give you an update on some scores across the NFL coming up here momentarily. I hope you don't have Tua on your fantasy team. That guy stinks.
Make sure it's a bad fantasy owner.
Grant Paulson's going to join us next. We'll get his thoughts on the game. We'll go around the NFL prior to getting Grant on as well. He's Lynnell Willingham. I'm Denton Day. We're live from Honor Brewing in Sterling. Come hang out with us. It's a great day out here, Lynnell. It's a little windy, but the weather is fantastic. They got the doors open, so you're getting a little bit of that outside breeze. Come hang out with us. They got great specials on food and drink. We're here for the entirety of the game. We'll be live on Twitter and YouTube for the halftime. We'll be live on Twitter and YouTube for the post game as well. Hopefully positive. Hopefully. But come back with us. Grant Paulson joins us on the other side. It's the Burgundy Gold pregame show. Denton Day and Lynnell Willingham with you on the Team 980. We're live on YouTube and Twitter on 106.7 The Fan and 980. A quick score update from the evil Philadelphia Eagles. They're in a close one with the Carson Wentz-led Minnesota Vikings. That one's 21-19. We got that one on in front of us. I'm hoping that the Eagles make a mistake, Lynnell, because I want to see them perish. And I would love it if Carson Wentz is the one to do it.
Yeah,
that's just me personally.
Nasty 3rd and 13 because A.J. Brown's just really good at football.
He's very, very good. Who's very, very good at radio? Grant Paulson is very, very good at radio.
Yes,
and he joins us now. He's one half of Grant Danny every 2 to 6:30 on 106.7 The Fan Monday through Friday. GP, we appreciate you making some time for us. We've asked this of all of our guests so far. Who is going to make plays for Washington today with no Terry, Debo, or Noah Brown?
What's up, Jeeps?
I'd like it to be Jalen Lane, guys. I think that he is the guy that has the most skill and juice and burst and twitch and wiggle and whatever you want to say. I mean, watching him at training camp, in just a comfortable setting where they trusted him to go out there and route people up. He diced defenders up for weeks on end. And we saw a lot of what you did last week on the 37-yard stop and go where kind of left the DB in his wake. I don't know why you wouldn't just, with no other option, turn him loose a little bit. And I know that playing outside on the boundary is not kind of the ideal scenario for him. You'd like him in the slot more often, but there's no reason you can't do that plenty today. I also think there's some Debo light to him, like literally lighter than Debo, but also figuratively. I think he's a guy you could, put in motion and line up in the backfield and throw some screens to. Now, I don't think he's going to be heavily involved. This is how I would do it. I think it's probably more like, 3 or 4 catches, 4 or 5 targets. But I'd love to see him heavily utilized and kind of get the Debo role of the offense. I think it's going to be maybe more Chris Moore than I want and a good bit of Luke McCaffrey. If I had to guess on targets, I would say in order it would be some variation of Moore and then Luke and then, hopefully – the targets that Lane gets are explosives and some opportunities down the field vertically.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the ironic part about the conversation about Lane being on the boundary, it's where he had the double move from last week. So I say, like you, just kind of let it rip. He's got the most juice. He's got kind of the best athletic profile. I'm more concerned, clearly, Grant, about the defense, in particular, how they're going to get after Dak Prescott. This Cowboys offensive line, a big reason why they're one of the best offenses in football. We know Dak is playing well with a hampered Dorrance Armstrong, who's been their most consistent pass rusher by far. How do you expect them to make him uncomfortable? Can they make him uncomfortable?
It's going to be really hard. For me, I don't think that realistically, consistently they will, because it's not just a them thing too, Lynnell.
Yeah.
If you look at it, Dak Prescott's number 3 in the NFL in sack avoidance. Pressures don't really become sacks against him. There's a mastery of the position in that way where he slides and moves in the pocket. And they also are really smart. I give Brian Schottenheimer a lot of credit. I made fun of that hiring. I'm still not sure what kind of head coach he is or will be, but I do think he's done a much better job kind of offensively designing things than I anticipated, especially in the run game. But they get the ball out really fast. And so when you look at number 3 in terms of sacks per pass attempts, for that team in terms of percentages, it's really, really hard to get to Dak. So my prescription defensively, the way I'm going to define success, there's going to be a pressure element to this for sure. How often you can impact him. It doesn't mean sacks. It means moving him around. He's not great scrambling, running. If he has to run for 4 yards and it sets up, instead of a 2nd and 13 or something, a 3rd and 9. But that's good because every time he stands there and throws it downfield, it's probably a completion for an explosive against the secondary. So those types of things are wins.
Yeah.
But I'm going to define success based on takeaways. Can they get 2 turnovers in this game? Because I think if you don't, then you just give up 30 points and you lose. I think they have to turn the Cowboys over. That could be luck with a lost fumble or an exchange thing in the backfield. That could be jumping a route and getting a pick. Really, it's been Mikey Sandristel or bust in that regard this year. So they've got to generate a takeaway.
Joe Witt has not been afraid to send 5-man pressures, Grant. Do you think today could be a day where he starts to send 6 guys to really put the pressure on Dak Prescott, as you mentioned, to make him a little bit a little bit less confident as he's just sitting there in the pocket?
I think you can pick your spots on that. I wouldn't major in it, Denton. Honestly, the Commanders, believe it or not, are the best, most effective. I guess the word would be the most efficient team in the league in terms of win rate rushing with 4. So to me, I think that's got to be the play, right? I know they've got this illness with Deron Payne, and we had the issue this week now with Dorrance Armstrong. So it's not your normal traditional 4, which hurts, and maybe that's why you would say dial it up a little bit. And there's some of that that's necessary. I think with any quarterback that's a veteran like him, you've got to show some different things, off schedule, off type, so to speak, from what you've been. But I wouldn't live and die with that. I just don't think your secondary is good enough to necessarily do that. I'm a proponent of, like, there's 2 schools of thought. Either if you rush and you get the ball out of a guy's hand, that's certainly a philosophy. You got to be able to get home, though. Against these receivers, that means you're playing man, and that means you're one-on-one because you don't have as many defenders to play zone in the back end. George Pickens on slants and crossers against fill-in-the-blank scares me. The other side with CeeDee Lamb scares me. So I would actually prefer to have more DBs kind of just trying to find a passing lane and get their hand on a ball. It might get burned doing that 7-8 times out of 10, but you're looking for the holding penalty and put them behind the sticks. You're looking for the one takeaway, as I said, per quarter, per half or something to make it all worthwhile.
I know the conversation, this week has been about the defense and what, type of matchup they're going to have to deal with. Dallas, obviously super explosive offensively, but going back to Monday night, and really all season long, despite Washington being, what are they, like top 12 in scoring in the National Football League here to start, it feels like they've left a lot of plays on the field. Felt like that against Chicago as well. Do they have to be perfect offensively to win here this afternoon?
I don't think they have to be perfect, no, but this is certainly a game where they've got to be at an A level, at a B plus level. I don't think C gets it done. Like, there are games based on opponent. Maybe you're playing Cleveland, who before today hadn't scored more than 17 points in 10 games. Maybe it's based on game scripts, whether that's like weather and rainy or just the fact that, both teams are exchanging punts or whatever. Like, there are times where you don't need to play your A game. You guys know, like I do. You saw the same projected total from Vegas that I did with 54, which looked like a Big 12 game. Like, Dallas can move the ball, man. As bad as their defense is, their offense is almost that good. It's about 400 yards a game. They scored 40 on Green Bay, who shoved it on Washington and looked like the best defense in the league before they played the Cowboys. This is a really, really good offense. So you got to keep up. You're also playing indoors, in air quotes. You're playing on carpet, so like speed should be able to show up. That's been a huge problem, I think, for Washington, is they, especially without Terry, they're not a speed team, and they just don't have enough of it. It's why I think Jalen Lane, it becomes necessary. It's why I think trying to get the ball to Corey Krosky-Merritt in space a little bit in the passing game should be a factor today. But I think they need to be really good. Like I have said throughout the week, pre the Debo rule out, I thought they could win and would win like a 34-30 kind of game. I really did believe that. I'm now leaning the other direction where they probably lose like a, 31-27 kind of game. Yeah. But yeah, they've got to be really good on offense. They've got to protect the football. And really, this is Jaden Daniels' day. He's got to be awesome. He's got to run for 40, 50 yards. It's a tough ask. It's not fair to him that you go into a game going, hey, man, I own the misfit toys at wide receiver, but go out and hang 30. But in this offense, like respectfully to him and everybody, they've always been able to do it. When he was out, Marcus Mariota did it. When Marcus Mariota played last year, he hung 40 on multiple teams. Like this is what they do. It's a league designed for points. You start every drive at the 35. You're in field goal range at about the 35. You need one chunk play or a couple plays for 25 yards to get into point range. Like, go score points. That's what the league's about.
Grant Paulson with us on the Burgundy Gold pregame show. Lynnell, Willingham, live from Honor Brewing in Sterling. How do you anticipate the carries are going to be dispersed this afternoon, Grant?
JCM season. This is Bill time. I mean, I think we've kind of seen that for a couple straight weeks, frankly, right? Like, in the end, if you look at it, there have been other carries for other guys. But in basically like what is the non-formatted offense or Bill's on the sideline getting a helmet worked on or something because he got dinged or he lost the fumble or whatever, he's basically at 90+% of the carries. Like 2 straight weeks, they've kind of done that where he's been the bell cow. So I think that would be the play this week. I really do. They haven't gone away from him, Denton, when he's fumbled, and I love that. They've gone right back to him. If you look at it, like 2 weeks ago when he went over 100 against the Chargers, they kind of let Rodriguez, I guess it was, salt the game away. Last week, I think it was McNichols who got a couple of touches at one point. But for the most part, this has just been now their offense goes through him. I think it should today. I'd be really surprised if he doesn't have something like 16 to 18 carries and, frankly, over 100 yards. But I'll just kind of realistically say somewhere around 80, 90 rushing yards. But if you told me right now he ran for, $125, $130 in a career day, it would make sense. The Cowboys are terrible at stopping the run. This isn't the Bears where they're getting 3 starters back and they had an extra week to prepare. I think Washington will be able to run the ball on them. I really do.
All right, Grant, let's get a prediction before we get you out of here.
I'm saying Cowboys 31-27, but if Washington can run the ball effectively, there's no reason they can't win the game. People are now making this like it's, David Goliath and the Commanders have no chance. They haven't watched enough Cowboys football this year. This team's going to keep you in the game. They're going to give you every opportunity. They'll turn the ball over a couple times. They'll commit some penalties. This game's coming down to the wire. It's going to be tight. So it's very, very winnable. I'll say Dallas. It's a tough day when you have the cluster injuries at receiver. But I really do believe this could be a field goal at the horn kind of game.
Grant, appreciate the time as always. I hope you are right, and I hope Washington is the one kicking that field goal at the horn. Appreciate it, my friend.
And that Matt Gay decides he'll make this one. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
That is Grant Paulson, co-host of Grant and Danny, 2 to 6:30 p.m. every Monday through Friday on 106.7 The Fan. When we get back, you'll hear from the Sports Junkies, their thoughts on the game. Plus, we will go around the rest of the NFL, more than just the Philadelphia Eagles and Minnesota Vikings. I promise. He's Lynnell Willingham. I'm Denton Day. It's a Burning Gold pregame show. It's the Burgundy Gold pregame show with Denton Day and Lynnell Willingham on the Team 980 and 106.7 The Fans Twitter and YouTube page. Before we get to the Sports Junkies, Lynnell, we are in the final stages of this opening window. A couple scores from around the league. The Browns are just shellacking the Dolphins right now. Tua Tagovailoa looks awful. He's not a good quarterback, and he's showing that. It's 31-6. The Browns scored 31 points. That in itself is a miracle, but the Dolphins, who are supposed to be an offensive team, cannot score the football. So that game is over. The Panthers up 13-6 over the Jets. God help anyone that's watching that game. The Bears up 26-14 over the Saints. The Eagles and the Vikings are in a tight-ish one, 28-19. That's Carson Wentz starting for the Vikings, and I also forgot that Sam Howell is on the Philadelphia Eagles. I saw a picture of him. And did Carson Wentz just throw a touchdown pass to Hawkinson? He did.
Yes, he did.
So that is now a closer game than 28-19. Two games already in the books. The Chiefs just destroyed the Las Vegas Raiders 31-0. Looking forward to seeing them next week on Monday Night Football. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong there? And then the Patriots dismantled the Titans by a score of 31-13.
Yeah, it's been a wacky day in the NFL. A bunch of starting quarterbacks getting benched or getting injured. I'm glued in on this Eagles and Vikings matchup, man. We were having the conversation during the break. The Vikings are just a quarterback away, it feels like, from being really similar to what they were last year. And it begs the question of, why didn't you just pay Sam Darnold? Franchise him. You didn't have to.
Or go get Kirk.
You know.
I mean, Carson Wentz hasn't been awful. He hasn't been like Tua Tagovailoa awful.
Yeah.
He hasn't been great. That'll be his first touchdown pass, assuming the one to Hawkinson that he just threw stands. But I agree with you. All right, let's get into the Junkies. They gave us some thoughts on this game coming up here. We're about 30-ish minutes, a little over 30 minutes away from kickoff in Dallas between Washington and the Cowboys. The Commanders looking to get to 4-3, back over 500. They had an opportunity last week against Chicago, couldn't do so, so they're looking to get back over 500. Fellas, what do you think happens today?
All right, boys, how are we feeling about this Washington Commanders team coming off a tough loss against the Chicago Bears? Now they go on the road to take on the Dallas Cowboys, an explosive offense that is amongst the league leaders, averaging over 30 points per game.
Cakes threw out that stat during the week that Dak at home against the Skins/Commanders is 6-0 with 17 touchdowns and 0 picks.
Is that good? Yeah.
What do you think?
Pretty damn good. And he's having an unbelievable year. I mean, he's leading the league in yardage, and the Cowboys are leading the league in yardage. Their defense is terrible, but this is going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I mean, you can make up for a bad defense by throwing the ball all over the place like Dak does. He throws it to George Pickens, who's been a really good ad from a trade. He loves him some Jake Ferguson, and you have the potential of CeeDee Lamb, maybe one of the top 2 or 3 receivers in the entire game, coming back from a high ankle sprain. So I don't love the setup for the Commanders' defense. I just feel like you said, it needs to be a shootout here. Washington's going to need to score, I feel like, in the 30s to stay in this game.
Yeah, and the problem is they haven't done that consistently. You look at it on paper, though, and you think, okay, both teams probably going to lick their chops offensively, but I thought that last week against the Bears, right? I really thought we'd pound the football, have 180-plus rushing yards, and it didn't happen. They stacked the box and, forced those outside guys to beat them, and unfortunately weren't able to. I'm afraid Dallas is going to probably try to do the same blueprint, right? They're going to try to stack the box and try to force Jaden to beat him through the air, and typically he can, but he's just got reduced weapons out there. I don't know. I'm nervous about this game, and I'm really nervous how we're going to slow them down. I mean, who's going to stop Pickens? Who's going to stop CeeDee Lamb? Who's going to stop Jake Ferguson? I don't know that we have the personnel to do it.
You know what's interesting? They faced the Cowboys twice last year and didn't face Dak Prescott. Faced Cooper Rush, faced Trey Lance.
He was hurt.
Didn't face Dak. He has that history of success. I think the best game plan, and earlier in the week we talked to Scott Abraham about it, I agree with him, is pounding the football, try and dominate the clock, keep them off the field.
What do you do when they have, 8 or 9 guys in the box, though, and it's just unsuccessful? You're going to have to pass.
I think sometimes if your line can step up, even if the defense knows it's coming, you out-execute them. And this Washington Commanders team has a really good offensive line. I think they can impose their will against a weaker defense and get the running game going, make a couple big plays in the passing game. I like what I saw from Jalen Lane on that double move. He didn't get a ton of snaps last week, but maybe he needs to step up. I think Washington can get this win, even though, look, they're favored, by the way. We've been acting like doom and gloom this week. They're favored.
It's a coin flip.
I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to take the Commanders 28-27, which is what happened against the Steelers last year, which they lost 28-27.
I'm going to take Dallas 30-27. I just think that there's just too many pieces that you have to kind of focus on. And we haven't even talked about Javonte Williams. I mean, he's averaging over 5 yards a carry. He's got 5 touchdowns. He's also a player in the receiving game, in the passing game. Yeah, their defense is terrible, but I think if you look at what Dallas has done at home this year, they've scored 80 points in 2 games at home. And I think they're going to get close to that. I take 30-27.
I'm going to take the team with the better overall offensive talent that can score a ton of points seemingly every week. That's the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's a shootout. I think this game goes over the posted total. I like Dallas 35-28 with, a quarterback that never loses at home to the Washington Commanders.
Jaden's been pretty good, but he hasn't still quite yet found that cape that he put on last year. Especially down the stretch, those last 6 or 7 games in the first couple of the playoffs. I'm afraid he still hasn't found it. I don't know if it's the dry cleaners. I don't know if maybe the mom put it in the attic or something. He's got to find it. If he doesn't find it, unfortunately, I think Dallas is going to have their way with us defensively. I don't know how we slow them down. I think I see another 40 burger for them at home. I'm going to take Dallas 45, Washington 25.
45.
Blowout.
City.
45-25.
Wow.
We have
All
no
right.
answer.
All right, we'll
That'll
be
be
breaking it
interesting.
down, of course, on Monday morning on the Junkie, starting at 6 a.m. Back to you, boys.
Appreciate it, fellas. That was the Junkies, Lynnell. They're feeling more, I think, in the camp of that you're feeling, where maybe not as excited, not as optimistic. Well, not to say that you're not excited, but not as optimistic about the outcome today. I got to say, as we get closer and closer to the game, I'm feeling better than I thought I would be feeling, given who Washington is missing and the magnitude of people that Washington is missing. So when we get back, we'll continue to give some thoughts on this game. Lynnell, we're taking you all the way up to kickoff. We got 25 minutes until kickoff in Dallas between Washington and the Cowboys. The Commanders looking to get to 4-3 above 500 after falling to 500 on Monday against Chicago. It's final 25 minutes next on 106.7 The Fan of the Team 980. It's the Burgundy Gold pregame show on 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980 with Denton Day and Lynnell Willingham live from Honor Brewing in Sterling. If you still need a place to come watch the game, come hang out with us. They got great specials on food and drinks. Washington takes on Dallas today, Lynnell. We're 25 minutes away from kickoff. You and I are locked in right now at the end of this Philadelphia-Minnesota game. If Philadelphia loses this game and Washington wins this game, the Commanders, despite how wonky the first 7 weeks of the season will have been, would be in a tie for first place inside the division. And in fact, would be actually in sole possession winning the tiebreaker because the division record would be better than Philadelphia because they would be unbeaten in the division. So as crazy as it has felt this week and as, kind of in the dumps as it has felt this week because of the injury to Terry and him not coming back again, because of the injury to Debo and him not being able to play this week. You throw Noah Brown in there. Deron Payne is there's been a lot of reasons why you would lead up to this game feeling a little bit more pessimistic or skeptical as to whether or not Washington would come away with a win. But if they do, you're sitting in a really good position in the early portion, which again hasn't felt nearly as, shall I say, satisfactory as I thought the first 7 weeks would feel.
Yeah, I think Jaden had a really good line when he made his return against LA. Are you kidding me? The line he had when he returned against LA was more games are lost than won in the month of September.
Yeah.
We're now in October, and Washington's 1-1, and I think they beat the Chargers genuinely, and I think they lost to the Chicago Bears. I think this afternoon for Washington is massive. I've called it a must-win game. I know by definition it's not because it's only week number 7, but it's huge. We were saying it during one of the breaks. Just looking at the current landscape of the conference, your best chance at making the playoffs this year is probably going to be winning the NFC East.
Yeah.
When you think about who's left and who you've already lost to, you're down a game to Atlanta, who's going to be a wild card team. You're down a game to Green Bay, who's going to be a wild card team. You can't lose today, or you'll be down a game to Dallas, who's probably going to be in that wild card mix if they can get their act together. So huge NFC games coming up down the stretch. It starts here today.
What does Jaden need to do today? Because if you look at social media, you see a lot of people saying he needs to put his cape on. He needs to be the superhero that he was against Atlanta last year. We've had all this conversation about Terry playing. Will he play? Will he not play? He played in that Atlanta game, but he didn't do a lot in the Atlanta game. They still found ways to win. Jaden was working with a receiving group last year that really didn't have a lot going for it in terms of some of the older guys out there, and he was able to make it work. What does he need to do today to give Washington its best opportunity to win against a Dallas team offensively that can put up points, so Washington's going to have to score a bunch?
So the best way that I can describe what they need from him, you can't get bored making the routine play. And I think we saw that a couple of times against Chicago where he's holding on to it a little bit longer than he should, bypassing guys potentially in the flat. We talked about it earlier. I don't need the legacy game, so to speak, where, he throws for 300, runs for 100. I just need him to take what's given to him and be efficient. And more importantly than anything, keep this offense on schedule. Last year, Washington was 7th in the National Football League in terms of time of possession. They're 23rd to start this year. So they got to possess the football, especially in this matchup today against Dallas, where your best defense could be your offense here.
In terms of running the football, you get Sam Cosmi back, which at least on paper or in my brain, I see Sam Cosmi coming back, and I'm like, yes, he was awesome last year. I thought he should have been an all-pro last year. You get him back into the lineup, and you think they're just going to run the football, right? Should they be running in that direction? How are you looking at Sam Cosmi and saying, how are we assessing what he's going to be capable of? I guess I should probably ask, do you think he's going to start? Because he's playing. I don't know that
he better start. Andrew Wiley was garbage on Monday night, so he better start just off the strength. But I think where you're going to feel his impact the most is maybe not in the running game right away, because I think he drew a really tough draw to come back against. Think about this for Cosmi. You come back against Kenny Clark, Oso Digizua, and then next week, it's just Chris Jones. I think where he has his impact at today is in the screen game. If Dallas tries to blitz Washington the way that I think they will, and I think they will because Chicago had a lot of success with it last week.
Right.
I think them hitting on the screen game, him getting out in space, is probably easier to return from the ACL in that department rather than being in a phone booth versus Kenny Clark and Oso Odighizuwa when you really haven't played football in 9 months.
How many screens are you anticipating that they're going to throw? Because the screen game worries me because no one seems to be able to block on the outside.
Yeah, the running back screen game is what I want to see, man. Bill is, outside of Debo, your most dynamic offensive weapon. He just needs touches in space. He's going to make people, miss tackles. Chris Russell tweeted it earlier. Dallas 5th in the NFL in terms of missed tackles. So I think getting him the ball in space can be paramount. But the running back screen game, we haven't seen it a lot throughout the year. And
I'm trying to think. I think McNichols had one that he popped off for a big gain, but Bill's biggest reception was not a screen. It was just like a little short in route. Yeah, out of the backfield.
So I think I would like to see more of it, but that's where his impact I think will be felt the most. Then is in that screen game if they're able to get to it.
So Philadelphia's going to win that game against Minnesota, by the way. They're in victory formation, so they win that 28-22. So even if Washington wins, Philadelphia will still be over top of them in the divisional rankings. So we talked about the offense. What about the defense? Because you look at this Dallas offense, and Dak Prescott is putting up numbers that have him in the early MVP conversation, and he did a lot of that without CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is now back this week. He said in a press availability, he said, I could have come back last week, but I wanted to hold off and just be safe. And I was like, can you be safe another week? Because this Washington defense right now, they don't inject a lot of hope into me thinking that they can cover both CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Because in the absence of CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens went bonkers. Multiple games. I mean, I think he had over like 300 yards over the course of 2 games in the receiving department. And Dak Prescott really was able to build chemistry with him. That does worry me a little bit for a defense in Washington that has not been good at stopping the pass.
Yeah, I wish I had like confident, concrete answers as to how they will get stops. I just don't. I think their best case scenario, Brock Hoffman starting at center. Cooper Beebe's been on IR for a couple of weeks. Hoffman's not a big physically imposing guy at all.
Right.
If Javon Kinlaw and the company can somehow win that matchup on the interior and get Dak off of his spot, that's their best chance to me. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it. This is another good interior offensive line, minus the center. I think Chicago's group is probably better because all 3 of those guys were real good players. But I think that's the key, getting interior pressure. I don't expect Dorrance Armstrong to have much of an impact because of the injury. Von Miller, his 3.5 sacks, they're second on the team. It makes me want to throw up. He has been so non-impactful throughout this year. And I get it. He's supposed to be a situational rusher. The most impact he's had this year feels like he's every Tuesday at 8 a.m. with the Junks. Like he hasn't done much this year, man. And it's frustrated me because I remember being on overtime that night when he got signed. And I was jumping out the gym, super duper excited, getting a first ballot gold jacket guy. He just hasn't made an impact. The time is now for him. Please do something for us.
I mean, this is the day, if there has been a day, to turn the clock back 10 years. If you get 2015 version of Von Miller,
holy hell,
we're going to be jumping out of the brewery here at Honor Brewery in Sterling, right? Because that is the version, not that anyone thought he was going to be that version. I don't think if you thought Von Miller at 36 was going to be a 20 sack guy, you're nuts. I mean, you're on something passing our way, right? But it would be nice knowing that Dorrance Armstrong is hurt, and you don't really have a lot of other options. Javonte Jean-Baptiste has been okay, but you didn't do a lot in terms of getting other guys. Preston Smith, I'm good. He can't run. Yeah. He's also old.
Preston Smith was horrible on Monday night.
He was not good on Monday night. If it wasn't the worst game of his recent couple of years, I am frightened of what was worse because he just wasn't good.
Yeah.
So they need a guy like Von Miller. I know he's 36 and he's old, but you got to be a young man for today. Yeah. And you got to get after Dak Prescott. And that also means for Washington, like if you get an opportunity at Dak Prescott, you got to tackle him. Yeah. Because when you and I have been sitting here watching this Minnesota and Philadelphia game, and what we've seen in Minnesota and Philadelphia is that Minnesota is getting at Jalen Hurts, not tackling Jalen Hurts. Yeah. I'm going to lose my mind if Washington finds themselves in that same position only against Dak Prescott today. If they're getting to him in the backfield, but they just cannot corral him and bring him down, that cannot happen. If you get your opportunities, you need to capitalize on those opportunities.
Yeah, the tackling is going to be huge, getting ball carriers to the ground. I think it's crazy because Grant and company, I think it was Grant that talked about Dak not being that good as a scrambler. I think he can hurt you that way.
He just doesn't look to scramble. Like
Exactly.
that's the thing about Dak that is always even over the course of his career. It's not that he's not mobile. He just always keeps his eyes down the field. And when you got now George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, those guys can play backyard football.
Right.
And I don't know that Washington's defensive backs excel in the backyard football element. In fact, I am 100,000% confident they do not excel in the backyard football portion of the game. So that's really dangerous.
Yeah, it's about trying to be sticky in coverage, trying to plaster. The biggest storyline that I'm looking for on the defense is I'm looking at a young man wearing a CeeDee Lamb jersey. CeeDee Lamb, start him in all your fantasy leagues. If Mikey Sainristil has to be lined up across from him for 50, 60 snaps, 40, 45 snaps, curtains.
Yeah, it's over.
Curtains. I expect to see Jonathan Jones at some point. I have that little faith right now in the level of football that Mikey's playing.
Jonathan Jones, I think you'll see a lot of Trey Amos.
I hope.
I don't think it'll be a situation where they're following or Trey Amos is following CeeDee Lamb, because that would inversely mean that Marshawn Lattimore is following George Pickens. And if you get Marshawn Lattimore and George Pickens in front of each other for 55 snaps, you're going to get a boxing match by snap 36, right? Like you're not going to get the whole 55 there. And I don't want that, because we know how things go. If it's a boxing match, the defense is going to get kicked out. George Pickens is going to stay. That's just how that's going to go. So I think Trey Amos will see a little bit of CeeDee Lamb. When we get back, we'll give you our full predictions. We'll give you some players to lock in on. Could Trey Amos be one of the players to lock in on? He's Lynnell Willingham. I'm Denton Day. 12 minutes from kickoff in Dallas between Washington and the Cowboys.
Literally. Yep.
It's the Burgundy Gold pregame show. Denton and Lynnell, Willingham, under 10 minutes from kickoff in Dallas for the Commanders and the Cowboys. This is a big one for Washington, Lynnell. Not quite a must-win, but I think you said this earlier, it's a season-defining game for Washington. If you win this game, all is right, because we know, understanding, they don't have a lot of their top weapons. So if Jane Daniels can go in and win a divisional game without Terry, without Debo, without Noah Brown, you feel a lot better about yourself at 4-3 versus if you can't, you're now 3-4. You don't know when these guys are going to be coming back.
Yes.
And then you're in this pattern of holding, especially because the Kansas City Chiefs just completely blew the doors off of the Las Vegas Raiders. They are fully healthy, and now you play them next week. So this is a really important game for Washington that they got to come away with a win.
And you want to stay undefeated within the NFC East as well. I've said it a couple of times here throughout the broadcast. Right now, it looks like the best way for Washington to punch their ticket to the playoffs is winning this NFC East that hasn't had a repeat winner since the early 2000s. You know how I get as we get closer and closer to kickoff. Darius is here with us today, so he gets to see my freak out. You can't drop this one. And if you do, boy, oh boy, I am going to be tuned in bright and early, 6 o'clock for the Junks tomorrow morning. I'll be listening all day long because the conversation locally is going to change drastically. Yeah. And I know, Darius, your show that you normally produce, G&D, Grant this week, you hear that? That was the door opening for Adam Peters' criticism in terms of why this season has gone the way that it has. I go right back to the construction of this roster. They didn't go out and spend the big-time money that they had. You could use some help at wide receiver. Devontae Adams had 3 touchdowns today. Wouldn't you love to have him part of this thing? You know what I'm saying? DJ Reed has been pretty damn good for the Lions to start. I know he's been nicked up, but help in the secondary. They just didn't spend money, and they look like the oldest team in football. Hopefully they don't today.
Yeah, that age thing has been a real tough pill to swallow for me over the course of the early portion of the season and the off season. Before we give our official predictions, Lynnell, let's give our Baldino's a player to lock in on. Baldino's Lock and Key is your hometown security team for auto keys and fobs. Baldinos.com. Who are you looking at? I think I have 2 players, so I'm going to give you one for offense and defense, but I'll let you have the floor first. Who are you locking in on?
Yeah, starts with me on the offensive side of the football, and I know we have not used him yet this year. It's Jaden Daniels. He has to be the vintage. It has to be a vintage Jaden Daniels performance. He has to be the guy that we saw down the stretch. I'm not asking for full-blown Atlanta where he put the team on his back totally, but, give me the Philadelphia game. He also put the team on his back. Basically, it's what he's got to do here this afternoon, man. You're down wide receivers. I know we don't like the idea of him having to put on the cape because we associate that with a bunch of runs, and that's how he gets hurt potentially. But you got to do what you got to do, Slim. What did Denzel Washington say? I'm leaving here with something. He's got to leave AT&T Stadium with a piece of the Cowboys' ass.
And hopefully a W in the process. So you and I are on the same page. I was going to go Jaden Daniels, too. Yeah. This is a Jaden Daniels game, but it's also a Cliff Kingsbury game. I think those two are very much in lockstep. It's been one of the best things about the last year and change, right? Those two guys have a good relationship, and they're on the same page. It feels like almost all the time. They need to be in lockstep. Jaden is going to need to play the best game of his season so far, and Cliff Kingsbury is going to need to call the best game of this season so far. You have to be able to make more with less because right now you are operating with less. So I think Jaden Daniels is who I'm locking in on offensively.
Yeah, I think it's a smart play. We just gave you all the reasons why. Here's the thing, too, what was so nasty about last week. Throughout the course of his career, and I know we don't have a huge sample size, but last year in particular, he was his best in those late game moments. Last week, he was not his best in the late game moments. So I'm expecting him to bounce back. I think he just is a madman and takes everything personally. I know he's going to have a chip on his shoulder here this afternoon.
Defensively, my second and final player to lock in on here, I think it's Javon Kinlaw. Yeah. If Deron Payne is under the weather, if Dorrance Armstrong might be limited with a hamstring injury, it's going to be up to Javon Kinlaw to be the beast that Adam Peters sees and fantasizes about when he gave him $45 million. Javon Kinlaw's been good this year. I think we can all agree on that. The first 6 games for the Commanders, he's looked really good. I need him to be great today. If he is great, I think that gives Washington a really good opportunity to come away with a win here. And now is the time, Lynnell. Yes. It is the money-making time. I want your prediction. If you have any wagers on this game, I will take those as well.
Final prediction. God, I can't believe I'm doing it. They haven't lost 2 in a row yet. Give me Washington in a lower scoring game than maybe we were anticipating.
Whoa, hey, easy now.
Well, I know. 27-24, though. Does that help you out?
I think I missed with that.
I think you missed.
I got the over in this one. I bet the over early this week. I was like, hey, Washington can't stop a lot of people. Dallas can't stop a lot of people. So I'm on the over. I do like the Commanders, though. I like the Commanders 31-28 in this one. I think they get it done. There's been so much made about the bad for Washington. I think we're going to see a lot more of the good for Washington. Yeah. The good is going to come in the form of Jaden Daniels. The good is going to come in the form of the run game being significantly more efficient and significantly more dominant than it was against Chicago. I was hoping for much more against the Bears, and it really wasn't that. So I'm thinking the run game is going to be spectacular, and either Luke McCaffrey or Jalen Lane or Ben Sinnott, take your pick at whoever, one of those 3 guys is going to have the best game of their young career. That's going to happen today, and that's going to help propel Washington to a position of victory. I do have a couple other plays on this, Lynnell. Yeah. I am riding Ben Sinnott. Anytime touchdown at 13-1. I think anyone should this. If not now, when? I know Zach Ertz is playing, but Zach Ertz isn't fully healthy. He was questionable for a majority of this week. If not now, when on Ben Sinnott? I like Ben Sinnott to have a big game, and I could not find a Jeremy McNichols rushing prop. I was very upset about that. I think McNichols is going to have a big game.
FanDuel sucked today. They didn't have Chosen Anderson available. They didn't have Jeremy McNichols available. It's almost like Vegas doesn't know anything about the game.
You think of Chosen Anderson getting in the is it Chosen Anderson or Robbie Chosen?
Oh, sorry, Robbie Chosen. But on Madden, as I was using them last night, they called them both.
Interesting. It's disrespectful, honestly. I think Robbie Chosen could have a big game as well. If Robbie Chosen has 3 catches today, I would call that a successful day.
I think he's the guy that can stretch the field for him today.
I think you are right. All right, it's game time. We are back at halftime on Twitter and YouTube. We'll be back on postgame on Twitter and YouTube as well. Enjoy the game. Next time we see you, hopefully we are sitting here happy.